Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Heroes for Hope, starring the X-Men, issue number 1. Well, there was only one issue. It's a 48-page special. And this is cover dated December 1985, but the comic was on sale around mid-August 1985. So you can see here that we've got the X-Men on the cover, of course, Wolverine front and center, running towards us, and it's the X-Men of 1985. So we've got Magneto and Rachel Summers Phoenix as part of the team, and the cover is by Arthur Adams, and there's a May 1985 date on it, and it is an iconic cover, most particularly for the figure of Wolverine, because that figure of Wolverine was turned into a cardboard cut out life-size model that could often be found in 1980s comic shops, and it is a classic by virtue of that. But some subscribers may not be familiar with the origin of that cardboard cutout and the image of Wolverine from this particular cover with the rest of the X-Men behind him. A couple of other things I want to note about the cover include the fact that Arthur Adams is inking himself, that his inking style, it's fine line, probably a crow quill pen he's using, but fine hatching and details here, which would of course become incredibly influential on subsequent artists such as Jim Lee and most particularly Rob Liefeld as well. And this particular cover includes some aspects that are identifiably specifically influential on Rob Liefeld, including the curved mount here. So that is a device that Liefeld would use in X-Force. Most particularly, I'm thinking of X-Force issue number 4, the issue set atop the World Trade Center, one of the World Trade Center buildings, with Juggernaut versus X-Force. So we've got the curved mount. So we took that device from Arthur Adams, and also the way of drawing forearms and hands. So this bold fist of Wolverine's there is exactly a Rob Liefeld style hand from New Mutants and X-Force and on into Youngblood. Also the way of drawing the forearm here with these two indications of muscles here at the top of the forearm, very Liefeld-esque as well. So definitely a student of Arthur Adams and getting devices and even aspects of his anatomical style from that study. So something else I want to note is there's a cover caption here. All proceeds from this comic book are being donated to famine relief and recovery in Africa. Now, originally, the charity that was going to be the recipient of the proceeds was to be Oxfam, but in fact, the charity that was provided the around $150,000 proceeds from this comic turned out to be the American Friends Service Committee. So there was a controversy concerning Oxfam, or rather they found this comic, if you can believe it, controversial, but I'll talk about that in another video, because this comic is a jam issue. So there are a host of writers and artists involved who donated their work, or rather the profits from their work, to this particular famine relief charity comic. And so there's a lot of creative hands involved, and because the comic is 48 pages with no advertisements, there's a front and back cover. The back cover is by Jim Starlin. I'm going to create 2 videos on this comic because I want to go into some detail on the various writers and artists and collaborations in this unique comic. So let's open, and by the way, I'll finish off what I was saying there. I will talk about this controversy regarding the recipient of the monies in the second video review for the second half of this comic. So I'll do 24 pages in this review and the remaining 24 pages in back cover in review number 2. Something else I want to note though before moving on past the cover is this logo here, Heroes for Hope, starring the X-Men, with the heart there projected over the middle of the logo. We'll discover on the inside cover page who's responsible for that logo. It is by one Janet Jackson here, but it is not Janet Jackson, the singer and sister of Michael Jackson, but rather a comics creator. But this caused confusion for the staff or CEO of Oxfam, which also factored into their rejection of being the beneficiaries of this charity comic, if you can believe it. So the story is credited to Chris Claremont and Nocenti, Bernie Wrightson, Jim Starlin, and Jim Shooter. The comic itself is edited by Ann Nocenti and Chris Claremont. So Nocenti was the editor on Uncanny X-Men at this time, but Claremont also acting as editor because, of course, Claremont was chief creative on the X-Books in 1985. So he's ensuring a consistency of characterization. And then we have assistant editors Pat Blevins and Terry Kavanagh. Now, who was the originator of this idea of a charity comic, the proceeds of which would go to famine relief in Africa? Because in 1984 there was a devastating famine in Ethiopia. That famine was also a consequence of the war between Ethiopia and Eritrea, and there were many celebrities and singers and artists at the time who were concerned to raise money for famine relief. And the person who is responsible for this particular comic, the germ of the idea of it, is in fact Bernie Wrightson. So Wrightson went to his friend Jim Starlin about the idea of doing a charity comic that would star the X-Men in order to be as popular and profitable as possible, since the X-Men were the number one selling superhero comic of 1985. And then Starlin and Wrightson went to Jim Shooter, and he was up for it. And Shooter, of course, talked to Claremont and Nocenti, and they came on board as well. So the plot for this 48-page story is worked out by these five, and then the plot is sent for scripting to this what would I call them, but creator roll call of top comics creators of the 1980s. Everyone starting from Stan Lee to Alan Moore to writers from outside comics like Stephen King, Harlan Ellison, and even George R.R. Martin there. So really an intriguing creative product this. All of these people, all of these different people involved, and foregoing their profits in order that those monies would go to charity instead. Down here, front cover by Arthur Adams, back cover by Jim Starlin. And let's look at the opening few pages, and we get our full creator credits there. So pages 1 to 2 by Stan Lee, scripted by Stan Lee, penciled by John Romita Jr., who was the regular penciler on Uncanny X-Men at the time, inks by Al Gordon, letters by Tom Orzechowski, and coloring by Dana Graziuna. Is there an S there? Is Graziunas, I think. And then the next couple of pages also scripted by Stan Lee, but penciled by John Buscema, inked by Klaus Janson, letters again by Tom Orzechowski, and colors by Marie Severin. So remember all of that. So big splash page here featuring Rachel in her guise as Phoenix. In issue 199 of Uncanny X-Men, she finally accepted her identity as being the bearer of her mother's Phoenix powers and has embraced them. And so she has this Phoenix type costume in this period. And here she is standing in the porch at the entrance to the X-Mansion, and she is screaming no. "Welcome to the home of the outcast mutants, known as the X-Men," writes Stan Lee. "The most uniquely powerful superheroes on Earth. It is morning, the sun is bright, the air is calm, there's not a cloud in the sky, all is silent and still, the world seems covered with a blanket of peace. So why is this girl screaming?" Now that's a very Stan Lee trope, to ask a question like that, to kind of query the contents of the story, to comment on it. And then let's turn the page. So her scream echoes through the X-Mansion, waking the X-Men up. And we've got Magneto there. He starts issuing orders. "Rogue, Storm, take care, we may be under attack," because Professor X in issue 200 asks Magneto to take over as principal at the X-Mansion. Rogue emerges from her room, declaring a scream like that can mean nothing else than that they are under attack. And Storm emerges saying, "It sounds like Rachel." So Logan is up, Colossus is up, and they race to the front door, which is open. Nightcrawler teleporting there, saying, "I've never heard such terror in anyone." Magneto saying, or rather, Rogue looking out the door and saying, it can't be, could it be, Magneto? And he says, "We must accept the evidence of our senses. Anything is possible. We of all people should know that." So they arrive out on the porch, standing behind Rachel, and now we see what she saw and why she screamed. And they're in a sun-baked desert where the sun's like a furnace, as Logan says. Rachel says, "The postman, it's Kitty Pryde, is out there. She walked out to get the mail, then the world went mad. The landscape changed, like a giant hand had erased it. The postman was terrified. He collapsed." Rogue is asking, "What do we do? How do we fight a change of scenery? How do you fight a change of scenery?" Again, that sounds like Stan Lee, that kind of style of his. There's a kind of a glibness to Stan Lee's style, and it comes out in that piece of dialogue there in Rogue's mouth. "Patience, Rogue," says Magneto. "This is no capricious whim of nature. Whatever the answer, there's intelligence behind it." So Kitty is there, dragging the postman towards the porch. "It's all too crazy," she exclaims. "Things like this can't happen. The grounds of our mansion can't suddenly turn into a desert in the wink of an eye. Hey, X-Men, how about lending a hand?" And then we're on to John Buscema, inked by Klaus Janson, as he would be when he did the first 10 issues of Marvel Comics Presents Wolverine. You can find my reviews of those in the back catalogue of the channel. So Nightcrawler teleports out to her, and he says, "You can leave him to me now, Kitty." But Kitty says, "Be careful, Nightcrawler, he's in a bad way." "Well, what are you waiting for?" And then he teleports back towards the porch. The horror, couldn't help myself, looked through gates of Hades and into. So something is very, very wrong. And Storm says, "Let Wolverine go. His mutant healing factor and survival skills make him the best choice." So Logan puts his hat on and he goes out under the baking sun. "This heat is something else," he says. "In human or armored form, Colossus wouldn't have lasted a dozen steps. Wonder what's keeping Kitty alive. Hey, what gives? All of a sudden I feel like I ain't eaten in weeks. My flesh pulling tight over my bones. This is crazy. It's like I'm in the early stages of starvation." And we can see that on his face there, as well as the skin is tightening over his skull. "This is why it had to be me out here," he says. "Without my healing power, the others would be in big trouble." So he tells Kitty to let go. "Shadowcat, listen up, girl, it's Wolverine," but she's still dragging the postman. Let's turn the page for more. And then she turns around, and she's also losing fat and flesh. And the postman, he's dead. It's too late for him. "We gotta roll," says Logan. "And I mean now." "I can't," she says. "I won't leave him to die." "What's happened to you, Logan? Don't you care about anyone but yourself?" "I'll show you what I care about," he says. Pops his claws, stabs him right into the postman. Maybe he's still barely alive. And then the scene changes. Wolverine, everything's changed. It's all back to normal again. And the postman's gone. It's like nothing ever happened. So was the postman somehow an anchor for some kind of entity that was causing this bizarreness at the opening of the story? Intriguing. And now we're on to a page written by Ed Bryant, penciled by Brent Anderson, and inked by Joe Sinnott. So seconds later, Wolverine is bringing Kitty towards the entrance of the X-Mansion. Storm tells him to put her on the couch, and Nightcrawler is berating himself in his thoughts. Kitty counted on me. Why did I fail her? So he says he'll search the grounds, and Phoenix is able to say that Rogue's already doing the air search. My psi scan indicates no hostile thought patterns anywhere nearby. And Rogue finds the estate clean from her aerial survey. So Kitty's recovering there. Logan lights up a cigar, says, the enemy, he's still here. Whatever hit us, I can feel him. Call it instinct, an itch at the base of my skull. He's waiting, he'll be back. So Magneto has a plan. He says the Cerebro system is designed to detect mutants. Perhaps with it, I can locate our mysterious assailant. And Logan replies, I got a feeling it won't do any good, Magneto. So Logan's got an instinct about this antagonist, and we'll see how it all pans out in the coming pages. So we've got another creative switch coming up now after this page turn. So coming up next, we've got Louise Simonson on scripting duties, and John Byrne and Terry Austin reunited on X-Men. So this little segment concerns Colossus and Nightcrawler. So Colossus is diving into the pool that's in the backyard of the X-Mansion, and he and Nightcrawler are talking about how no intruder has been found. And so Colossus is diving into the pool to do some laps. And Nightcrawler says, sounds more like punishment than exercise, my friend. And Colossus says, perhaps, Kurt, but on my family's collective wheat farm in Russia, exercise was a luxury for the decadent. Work, that was the measure of a man. Nightcrawler says, yet here you are, a tin man trapped in this decadent Oz. But you will be a man if it kills you. Very well, my friend. Come out before you rust. And Colossus replies, the Wizard of Oz tape has got to go. Tin Man indeed. And he thinks to himself, though, I only wish, like him, I had no heart to break. When Kitty was attacked, I was glad that Wolverine was chosen to go for her. I was afraid. So even though this is a charity comic, there is still accurate characterization going on here. And of course, that's down to the fact that Claremont and Nocenti are contributing to the plot, but also acting as editors. So the characters are on model, but there's character work going on as well. Really like the detail of the wonky lines of the tiles at the bottom of the pool because of the way we're seeing it through water. There, that's a nice little detail by Byrne and Austin. So Colossus starts getting dragged under by this towel. Luckily, I don't have to drown where human flesh fails. My tin man strength shall end this appalling joke. So he rips the towel apart, gets up out of the pool, and something has changed again on the grounds of the X-Mansion. As a child, Colossus had seen a time-lapse film of wheat sprouting in a field with abnormal speed, an unnaturalness that both fascinated and repelled him. This is worse, far worse, for these shafts are not of wheat but of glittering metal, and within mere seconds mansion, grounds, earth, sky are swallowed up, and all that is left is a wasteland of twisted steel as far as the eye can see. So Colossus calls out for his teammates, but no one answers him until they do, and they've turned to sleek and high-tech versions of themselves. The world's become a hard place, bub, says Logan. We gotta be hard too, or we die. Hard, cold, in control, like you, says Magneto. So there's something trippy, something psychedelic going on here. This has to do with Colossus's character, what he's seeing, and the challenge of it. So Storm touches him, and then he starts turning like them, a metallic shell. You must be in step with the times, Storm says. Why do you fight it? You're armored against pain. Now, you control. You are invulnerable. Invulnerable, asks Colossus. Nothing can reach me, touch me. No need to strive, no fear of failure, no pain, no sorrow, ever. And then he says, I'm free, finally free. No, he collapses to the ground on his knees. Am I such a coward that I chose to surrender my humanity so joyfully? So the X-Men seem to be attacked psychologically, and the attacks have to do with their like temptations for them that prey on their weakness and tempt them with an easy solution, a wrong solution. So Storm is observing Peter sobbing like a baby, but Nightcrawler is caring for him, and she says, I believe, Magneto, our foe may have just claimed his second victim. So we've moved on to a new creator team here. Ed Bryant once again with Brent Anderson, but this time inked by Dan Green. So you can see the very distinctive Dan Green ink line here on the drapery of Storm's what would you call this? Like it's not a bathrobe. It's like a dressing gown. There we go. This dressing gown that she's wearing. And of course, remember, Dan Green is the regular inker on the main series Uncanny X-Men at this time. So what does Magneto says? He says he feels so helpless. Perhaps that's the idea, says Storm. In the old days, Magneto says, I would simply have gone out and attacked. No thought of consequences or cost. Action begets reaction. Storm says, that must have made life much simpler. And then off panel, it's Kitty. She's saying, if anyone's interested in lunch, I'm starved. So in they come. This is a fairly funny image here of Wolverine eating a peeled banana. And Kitty goes off to the fridge to get some food. Let's turn the page. New creative team. So here we get Stephen King on the script, Byrne Wrightson on pencils, and Jeff Jones on inks for 3 pages. So a 3-page sequence by Stephen King and a study of Kitty, psychological horror here. So off she goes to the fridge, and she says, when a girl's hungry, she's hungry, and then she's stopped from opening the fridge by this shrouded figure. The tendons in the thin hands feel as powerful as steel cables. And the figure says to her, hi Kitty, lunchtime already? It must be because you sure look hungry. Dry hands settle over her face. Its breath is rank with empty death, and yet she's never been so hungry. And the shrouded figure says, lucky thing, the fridge is right here. Huh? Good food, good meat, good God, let's eat. So Kitty here is turning to skin and bones, absolutely starving. And the shrouded figure says, and look what I've whipped up for you. Smells good, doesn't it? Steak medium rare, corn picked at the instant of perfect ripeness. And she struggles to say, give it to me, please, please, whoever you are. And the figure says, I've spent most of the morning slaving over a hot stove, but I don't mind. You might say I take great pride, and he's punning on her name, in my work. It's all for you. And then in the prose, Stephen King's prose, Kitty reaches out with shaking hands, which have become little more than bones wrapped in skin. Her head swims with the maddening aroma of juicy meat and hot buttered corn. But as her fingers touch the plate, the food melts into a sickening slush of putridity. Maggots squirm in the rotted remains of the sirloin. So she's in despair. Who are you? She asks as tears stream from her sunken eyes. Turn the page. Interesting change of the layouts here to tall vertical panels. Oh, but my dear, I don't you know? I'm misery's maitre d', the the chef of starvation, waiter of the waifs of the world, hash slinger to the homeless. I am, my dear, every hungry bloated belly, every dying eye, every pickled bone drying in the desert. I'm pestilence and desolation, Kitty, but my friends just call me hungry. So of course this is in aid of famine relief in Africa, and this is the most on the nose that we've gotten in respect of that. And Kitty, who is a 13.5 to 14-year-old girl in America, has never experienced any starvation like this before. My body wasting away, I can feel it going. A curious Nightcrawler, sure that Kitty must be cleaning the refrigerator from one wall to the other, pokes into the kitchen, sees her and interrupts the entity, whatever it is. His friends just call him hungry, she says on the floor. Call who hungry, thinks Nightcrawler. Lieber Gott, what's this thing? And now a new creative team for the next segment. And this is 2 pages by Bill Mantlo, scripted by Bill Mantlo, and drawn by Charles Vess, inked by John J. Muth. So, whatever it is, it caresses the hidden corners of Nightcrawler's mind and opens the floodgates of memory. What lashes Kurt Wagner, then, is a vision of his past filtered through his own self-loathing, his own long-suppressed guilt and despair. How else could he feel born a monster, abandoned by his parents, a freak who, however justified in slaying his evil foster brother, always felt himself more deserving of death? So this entity is playing on his fears and traumas and guilt. How does he respond? I sought self-esteem in the X-Men, only to fail them when they looked to me for leadership. Only my faith sustained me, and that is no more. I'm lost. And that's a really great rendering of that emotion on his face there as well. Really well done by Vess and Muth. And then it seems like an angel appears to him. I can dispel doubt, Nightcrawler, and show you the way. And he asks as he tries to rise, are you the enemy? Enemy, she asks. I can make you the hero you always wished to be. So this is the temptation, to redeem yourself and thus redeem the world. So he responds positively, yes, oh yes, show me how. Behold the cross. So he's being tempted with becoming Christ. One man could and did sacrifice himself to save the world, but I'm not he, as he walks into the shadows. She says, viewed one way, your demise would allow another occupying your planet to live, to eat. Viewed another, what matters the death of a demon? But you've made your choice, now live with it. So he's broken there and in pain. Our visitor struck again, says Storm. Kitty's down and Nightcrawler's collapsing. Says, is this Rogue? It could be Rogue. I've got him, says Kitty. What's left of him? So these two have been badly attacked. Later, Magneto. So we're back to a page that's scripted by Ed Bryant, drawn by Brent Anderson, and in this case inked by Tom Palmer. So every one of Brent Anderson's 3 pages had a different inker, which is intriguing. So Magneto's thinking to himself, I can't let that thing claim another X-Man. While they search for our foe with their natural talents, I shall try my hand with Cerebro. My attempt at scanning earlier today was fruitless, but who knows, I might get lucky. So Rogue is out flying the grounds again to see if their enemy can be found, but she spots nothing. Wolverine's on the ground trying to find a scent, a trail. He finds nothing. And in Rachel's room, she's using her side powers and finds nothing as well to this point. And while the search begins, Storm tends the 3 casualties in the infirmary. And it's intriguing to see who the 3 casualties are, because they're the same 3 casualties in roughly a year's time from the mutant massacre. And so we've got Colossus, Kitty Pryde, and Nightcrawler in the infirmary, as they would be after the Morlock massacre and mutant massacre and the battle with the Marauders. And Nightcrawler there is shivering in fear and also shame. I was so afraid, I still am. All my courage, it was merely bravado, my humanity, an act, a lie. At last I face the truth that I'm a coward, far, far less than a man. Poor old Nightcrawler, eh? And then we get 3 pages by Alan Moore, drawn by Richard Corbin and inked by Richard Corbin as well. So Richard Corbin, more known for his indie comics. And so this is an intriguing combination. It also is intriguing for the fact that after the legal business concerning Marvel Man's name, the UK character Marvel Man, and Marvel US taking legal action against that name for the character, and Alan Moore having to change the character's name to Miracle Man, he vowed never to work for Marvel Comics. So with this charity project, he found a way was found to work around that. So he donated his pages for no fee to Marvel for this project. He wasn't paid at all for this. So he did it absolutely pro bono for charity. Intriguing. So he was able to put aside his antipathy to Marvel for the charitable cause and wanted to be a part of this, and then got the opportunity to write Magneto, which is really intriguing. So we get a psychological study of Magneto in these 3 pages. So he begins looking at his reflection in the polished helmet of Cerebro and puts it on. The headpiece is a giant skull. Old dreams and hollow memories still whisper inside it. If I read its bumps correctly, like phrenology, the nature of our enemy will be revealed. I put it on. Silence. Perhaps the beast has sniffed at us and passed by, moving out of range. I must seek further. No matter, that is the way in which we would all prefer to view such horrors, from a distance. And I like the way that Moore is implying indirectly the view of the horror of the famine in Africa and Ethiopia from the vantage point, the perspective of comfortable people, the readers of this comic. He's doing it indirectly. I like that. It's not preachy. You have to make the connection yourself. And then he's punched by this creature that's manifested right through the helmet, right through his brain. It's upon me. It's real. There's no avoiding it, ripping through my mind, tearing all my reasons and excuses aside like paper. I've met the enemy, and the enemy is, he doesn't get to finish it. The conclusion of the phrase is me, but that's what we see here. We're in his mind, in this psychic scape, and there is his Magneto's helmet, which he hasn't been wearing since he became principal of Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. Toad here finishes off differently from the quotation. Defeated. I've met the enemy, and the enemy's defeated. Every last man, woman, and child trampled beneath the heels and paws and flippers of your devoted servants. That's a proper Alan Moore touch. And flippers of your devoted servants, these mutants. All glory to Magneto. Exclaim the Brotherhood. What happened? asks Magneto. And Toad says, what happened? The galaxy's opal jests with his unworthy minions? Destiny happened, says Mastermind. Homo Superior rose up, and the brief illusion of human existence flickered and was gone. All glory to Magneto. And this looks like supposed to be Wolverine here. I wasted the remaining prisoners this morning, like you said. You should have seen the way the last one looked at me. And Magneto says, yes, good work. We've got Sauron here. I think this is supposed to be Colossus, even though it looks a bit like Mr. Sinister, but I don't think Sinister was on the scene just yet. All glory to Magneto, says Sauron. I like the stippling there for the reptilian skin of Sauron. That looks really great in Corbin's art. We've got Callisto here. I think this is supposed to be Blob. Blob says, course, Earp, we had to zap most of their crops and animals, so I guess our kids might have some kind of nutrition problem, but that's their lookout. As he downs the hamburger, all glory to Magneto. Yes, yes, says Magneto. Of course, all glory to Magneto. And Hitler, Adolf Hitler here says, so Magnus, you've cleared out the genetic deadwood. What an apt pupil you were, I salute you. And Magneto here with the Black Queen. Is it supposed to be Selene at this point? Probably. Thank you, I did my best, he says. It's time for your speech, says Scarlet Witch, Pearl of the Omniverse. So this is his own narcissism as well, manifesting in this fashion through these figures coming to him. And he makes his speech here, but he's kind of like not sure of himself. Comrades, loyal troops, children of the atom, the day we struggled for has arrived. The fighting was bitter, the cost terrible, but we've been vindicated, we were right. And he hesitates, and even if it were otherwise, there are none left to accuse us. But this hand emerges from the ground, and all these decayed bodies emerge from the ground, these dead, up from the earth they come. Dead women who only wanted to raise their children in safety, dead babies still clinging pointlessly to dead breasts. They didn't want to die, they've returned to tell us so. These are the flowers of guilt. This is the harvest that I've raised. Oh God, he thinks to himself, oh God, there are so many of them. Perhaps they will understand. Perhaps they will understand my vision, my guiding star, so bright and high that it took a mountain of butchered children to reach it. All glory to Magneto. My soldiers are gone. I'm alone with the dead. They touch me, and I know what I am. I know what I've taken from them. The hands of the dead are upon me, and I do not even have the right to scream. And then, as he sees, is it his reflection in the side of his helmet, and he's dying in the rain? That's the conclusion. Now, I discovered that the idea of bookending with Magneto's helmet, or looking at the helmet, Cerebro here, and then his own old helmet here, supervillain helmet here, it was not in Moore's direction to Corbin, but it was Corbin's idea of bookending the 3-page section with that device, and Moore was delighted with it when scripting this. So I think that Moore's section is really great, and it's such a pity that he's so intransigent when it comes to his quote-unquote sacred vow never to work for Marvel, because I'd really love to see, in particular, I've said it on other videos in the past, Alan Moore's version of Fantastic Four in particular. I think he's a guy who could do really great stuff on that particular title. Then we get back to the story. So the next section is scripted by Ann Nocenti, drawn by Mike Kaluta, and inked by Al Milgrom. So now the focus turns to Rachel. Alone in a room, Rachel is deep in telepathic pursuit when something sneaks up and taps her on her mind. So what's her psychic weakness going to be? Well, the fact that in her dystopian time she was a hound, a hunter of mutants for humans, my own kind murdered because of me. She thinks, down with my belly in the dirt again, like a dog. That's great dialogue from Nocenti there. I can't face this. Must run and hide before I'm caught. And so there's a collar around her neck. She's caught. She's trying to tug away from it. Not the collar on the end of a leash. It's the collar, don't make me hunt. No, now you're the hunted. And so she faces off against these versions of herself. Turn us in, did you? Hunt us. Sniff us out, will you? Betrayed your own kind. And she protests, I didn't want to. Turncoat, traitor, Judas, murderess. She protests that she's sorry. I'm so sorry, forgive me. You did us in, they say. And then she calls out to her mother. And the Phoenix responds, yes, darling, Rachel, my one and only bouncing baby, Coochie Coo. Mommy, she asks, yes, darling, come to mommy. Mommy will kiss it and make it all better. Will you follow in my footsteps? Asks the Phoenix. Will you be your mother's daughter? Mommy dearest, I want to be your best girl, says Rachel, crying. You're the best little girl, of course, darling. Alleviate the suffering of the world. Kiss it and make it better. Put them out of their misery as only a Phoenix can. And it's Dark Phoenix that she's facing and that destroys her. So again, this is like the darkest fear of an X-Man. And of course, Rachel's fear is that she could turn to this dark side just as Jean Grey did. And now we move on to the next section, and this will be the final section, 3 pages I look at in this review video. And these 3 pages are by the creative team of Harlan Ellison scripting, Frank Miller on art, and Bill Sienkiewicz on the inks. So intriguing to see Miller inked by Sienkiewicz. And of course with Miller you get a really interesting page layout where we have in this section Logan facing his inner demon. And that inner demon is his animal, bestial, shadow self. The entity is here. Tiny hairs stir at the base of his skull. The enemy presence is here, writes Ellison. In high late afternoon sunlight, he steps into a clearing. Then, in a moment, the light dims, the sun passes behind ominous clouds, darkness falls. A great wind rises, bending the trees, leaves sting him as they rush past. Then cold, terrible cold chilling him to the core. The trees close over, a canopy blotting out the sky. Total darkness and the scent of his own unnatural fear. He sinks to his knees, Wolverine. So you see the reflection of Wolverine here in the river, or the lake rather, Breakstone Lake. He rises, a naked Logan, no longer the half-beast thing. Hair normal, no claws, no uniform, a normal man. So that's what we see here emerging from the trees. Naked and vulnerable, bewildered, he looks around, fascinated by his own body, human for the first time in his memory. Then he senses the shape in the shadows, watching. And that shape in the shadows has the claws, watching. So I like the layout design here where we've got the mirror reflection of Wolverine in the lake. And then this design of the 8 panels here, 4 tiers of 2 panels each. So we almost have the 16 panel grid of Dark Knight Returns, which is what Miller was working on in this time period. So he's bringing a little bit of that aesthetic over here to his 3 pages for the Heroes for Hope project, and then back into the story. And Logan, the man, faces Wolverine. This is how it was for you long before Hudson found you in the forest of the... And then there's the 2 sides of him speaking. So the beast side is in magenta, and then Logan himself, human, is in yellow captions. Canadian Rocky's Logan, the voice is soft, feral, menacing. Before your skeleton was laced with adamantium, this is what you were when you couldn't heal yourself, when you were merely human. I can ease your pain, Logan. I can tell you the secret. I can fill in all the empty memories. And I'll happily do it, a snarling laugh. All you have to do, and Logan fills in, is beat me, kiddo. Logan's voice trembles. Nobody can beat Wolverine. Nobody beats the best. Not even to learn who I was or how I came to this. Nobody beats those odds. Charmingly, Wolverine says, oh, give it a shot. So it's Wolverine versus Logan. I like the top-down angle here. I like the shadow of the trees and leaves on Logan's back. And we get a little signature there. FM and Bill Sienkiewicz's signature too on the art. Wouldn't it be a treat to own the original art pages of this? Some unique pages. As he launches himself at Logan, so Wolverine's launching at Logan there, striking out with the claws. Frail human flesh hasn't got the chance of a snail in a bucket of salt. It's an interesting metaphor in Ellison's script. Logan scrabbles through underbrush, ducking, dodging. Done playing with you, kiddo. He comes for his prey, but Logan, desperate, uses the unicorn trap. Wolverine claws deep in the tree, yanks and struggles. So this is the unicorn trap. Wolverine stabs the tree. He's locked into it. Logan slides down and is able to get a grip on his evil doppelganger. Logan turns. The beast thing's claws poised at Wolverine's throat, one heartbeat away from driving adamantium with certain fatal precision through the X-Man's neck. No, not this time. I'm not an animal, I'm a man. I'm not losing that. No, he protests. We don't have to buy into that original sin garbage, says the beast. And there are flowers showing here. It's such interesting storytelling. There's better stuff in us. We're the ones who walk on the moon, the ones who painted the Sistine Chapel ceiling, the ones who invented the golden rule. We're not beasts. You don't turn me into what you are. I'm human. I'm human. Sorry, this is said by Logan, that we don't have to buy into that original sin garbage. He's human, and so he's integrated again back in his X-Men uniform. Wolverine, the entity, scintillates like a Roman candle. The chill wind rises. The shadow thing dissolves into a mote-filled pillar of light, rushing up in a shower, and is gone. Logan stands naked and bloody. Darkness swallows him again with light. Wolverine is himself once more, bewildered, spent, but a little bit more human. So Wolverine is the first X-Man to survive the attack of the antagonist, this psychic entity that's attacking them. He's come through the test, and he's standing tall at 5'3", human and proud. And there you go. So that's a good point. We're halfway through, 24 pages in. You can see the next segment up features Storm, but I will get to that and the rest of the story in part 2 of my review of Heroes for Hope starring the X-Men. It's intriguing stuff, and it really is interesting to see all of these different creators involved in this project, how there's a consistency for the characterization of the X-Men. They're on model, and that's down to Claremont and Nocenti being editors on this project. But also we get to see and read what artists not associated with the X-Men normally, like Richard Corbin and Frank Miller, are capable of doing. Of course, Miller with the Wolverine miniseries. We have seen his Wolverine before, but this is an interesting aesthetic deviation from that style when he's inked here in his Dark Knight era, Dark Knight Returns era by Bill Sienkiewicz. And also we get to read the contributions of writers from outside comics normally, like Stephen King and Harlan Ellison, and someone like Alan Moore. And I really liked Alan Moore's segment there on Magneto. I thought that was very well done. So there you go. This is the end of part 1 of my review and commentary on Heroes for Hope starring the X-Men. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.